So today I'll be creating this floral painting, and I'm using water-mixable oils, which I'm really enjoying using. Oils are my favourite medium anyway, but these have the added benefit of no nasty solvents. There are many videos about how to paint a flower, and I've done a few myself on my channel before, but many of you were getting in touch to say that you struggled then to turn that flower into a final piece that flowed well. So maybe the hardest part isn't painting the actual flower, but the bits in between. I too have really struggled with this, and so I wanted to share some tips with you today. This is a painting where I've actually already painted the main flowers, and I'm filming my process in real time to show you how I turn that into a finished painting. So if you would like some tips on how to paint the flowers themselves, I've created how-to videos for how to paint a rose and a peony in 3 easy steps, so I'll link to those videos in the description box. Having an odd number of main flowers is a really great place to start. Whether that's 3 or 5, they are generally my go-to numbers. Once those main flowers are in, we can then start building up the scene around them. So with my flowers, I usually begin with the darkest colours first, especially when working with oils. And once I've put in those darker tones for the centre of the flower, I'll use a lighter version of that same colour, so just adding a little bit of white, to then build up the petals. At this point, I really try and focus much more on the feeling of the flower and using my brush to try and replicate those sweeping petals with my brush strokes. I then really like to add in some cool and warm colours, maybe adding a bit of blue or purple depending on the painting, and then adding some warmer colours like yellow ochres or oranges. And this is because in a natural light there are always warm and cool tones, so it makes the painting a little bit more interesting to look at, and having those colours contrasted can really make the warm colours pop even more. You can totally use a reference photo to help you put your painting together. I generally use a mixture of reference photos and take bits and pieces from different photos and then stitch them together. Or I take a photo of one large bouquet and then swap around or add flowers to where I want them. It's kind of like you can create your own bouquet on the canvas. Adding flower buds also create some really nice interest without them attracting too much attention away from the main flowers. Once you feel like the bulk of the main objects are in the painting, it's now time to add the greenery. And this is one of my favourite parts, as you can really use your imagination and sweeping brush strokes to frame your flowers. I try to be free and flowing and not let my leaves feel too contrived. Dark greens work really well against light petals, and you can use your green to even carve into the petal shape even more, which will enhance the contrast and make that flower then stand out a lot more. It's important to be flexible too. Like here I've decided to add another flower as I realised I actually had an even number of white and pink flowers, so I added another white one to make it feel less mirrored and a bit more random. Now I have the bulk of my main interest in the painting, I usually add a sort of dreamy effect to fill in the edges using a mixture of all the colours in the painting. If it starts to blend too much into a flower, then you can go in and revisit those petals to add more contrast. This is why I really love working in layers, as it keeps things so fluid and you can act and respond accordingly to what happens on the canvas in front of you. Every one of my paintings is essentially an experiment, as I never know what the outcome is going to be, and that's what keeps it really exciting for me. I really like how the white on these petals has created such a romantic effect, so I'm going to go over all the other flowers that I've already painted and add in just some more tones and highlights. So now that that dreamy blended background is pretty much covering the canvas, I want to go in and add some more details to frame the flowers. So I'm going to use some hints of my green to suggest little leaves and vines, nothing too detailed. At this point, it's all about the little refinements that bring the whole piece together, and it can be really helpful to take a photograph on your phone, which can let you objectify the painting in such a different way to what our eyes see. And this is one of my biggest and best tips to all painters. I like to keep just building up the layers with more and more paint, especially at the end, because you can give those petals some nice chunky brush strokes, which then gives the painting a lovely texture when viewed close up. And after some refinements to the centre of those white flowers, I think it's finished. I really hope that you guys enjoyed seeing this painting come together. If you love painting tutorials and tips, then I will leave a link to all my tutorial videos that you can have a little flick through. Happy painting!